Hello and welcome to Rose Menagerie. Okay, so today I thought I'd share about our Hobbit book club that we experienced this summer with our cousins. And yeah, so essentially what I'm thinking about this video will hold is sharing about our experiences and kind of the things that we did. And then perhaps at the end, I'll do a little quick like how to create a book club of your own if you want to do something similar. Maybe that's where we'll start. And I'm gonna go ahead and apologize for noises from all the places because it's probably going to happen during this video. If you haven't done this yet, be sure to like and subscribe. Any bit that you guys can help would be so amazing, and that's the #1 way you can help us by doing that. Okay, so essentially what we did is we read The Hobbit alongside our cousins and uncle and aunt and Nana, and then even my mom and sister also read it too. No, they're not local to us, but essentially what we did was we broke up the book into the however many weeks it was for the summer. And I would show you and give you more in-depth like what it was, but because it was summer, it changed a lot, and that's fine. Like we had a plan of like when we would meet and stuff, and then those dates kind of changed around, and we had to move chapters around and all that kind of stuff. So that to say, be flexible and just have fun with this. But we met typically once a week, and we would read an assigned number of chapters. And then the children all had this little journal, and in it they would have a journal prompt that they would like respond to for the chapters that we read. So that happened every week. So that was what was going on when we didn't meet. And then when we actually met, we would begin our time together with the kids sharing their journals, and then I also had just some study questions. Just one second. Crisis averted. Anyway, so we would start each meet up with the kids going through their journals, and then we would also I just had some questions that I literally just Googled and had saved to kind of summarize and help them remember key parts of the story. And then once we did that part of it, then we would do an activity. So I'm going to attempt to put pictures somewhere here so you can see, but for the time being, I have them up on my computer. Ma'am. Kiana. They are all on my computer, so I'm gonna look over here and tell you about them, and hopefully you will see them up here. In the story, they talk about when everybody comes to Bilbo's house, they drink ale and his beer, they had these cakes and all that stuff. So I brought ginger ale, root beer, and cakes, and we had those to snack on. We did our questions, and then I gave them a letter with runes, and they had to like decipher what the runes were to find things around the house. So one of them was going outside, and they sprayed this message with water, and it would reveal a secret message. There was one where it was just a simple cipher. They had to figure out what the rune stood for and made a phrase. Once they did a puzzle, they had to put the puzzle together and to find the next clue. I had balloons in the back of my van that they had to go and find and then pop them all to reveal the next clue. And it was all done with runes. So like they would get the letters or the symbols, and they'd have to first figure out what the symbol was for and then move them around to figure it out. So obviously more so for the older kids, but the little kids had so much fun like popping balloons and spraying water and all that kind of stuff. Let's see. That's when they did the puzzle. Oh yeah, and then at the very end, because in The Hobbit, their goal is to go defeat Smaug and bring back the gold for the dwarves. So at the end of our first activity, they found chocolate gold coins. That was like their huzzah, you did it type thing. So that was the first week. And then that week was a little bit more intense on my part, like getting it ready, but it was so much fun to watch them do it. And then see, I feel like the next week, oh, okay, so I don't have pictures of this, but the next week, in the story, they reveal the secret runes on the map with the elves. So we did some like kind of science experiment with different types of invisible ink. And one of them we used, I think lemon, this is one of the boys' journals, but we did lemon juice, milk, and baking soda mixture. And essentially they wrote in these boxes with those different mixtures. And then we took an iron and we just pressed them to reveal a secret message. So like this was a really fun activity. All the kids love this one. And then the following week, so we created swords, and we just made those out of, it's actually right here. They're like these long stirring sticks, super long stirring sticks. I got these at Home Depot. You can buy them. I think it was like $4 for a 6-pack or something like that. And it's just a long like tongue depressor type thing. And yeah, the kids glued them together. And then they got to spray paint them, and then they picked out what tape they wanted for the bottom, and so that was the next week. And that took a while, and it was a lot of fun. The kids, like the older kids especially, came back and they like added designs. Like the boys saw that the big kids did that, so they asked Carl to add these to theirs, and it was just precious. Okay, and then the following week, was when the party goes into the woods and they're told don't leave the path, don't drink the waters, all these things that they're warned not to do, and Gandalf isn't with them anymore. Like it's just, they have to be very careful. And so what I did was I created a, I don't even know what you would call it, essentially they had to work together to be able to make it through the wood. And they were all given, I'm forgetting that I have these tools right here in front of me. They were given this little worksheet here. And so they started the trek with so many hearts, and they got so much food and clothing and arrows. And the goal was, it says, to survive, work together so that everyone survives with at least 1 heart of health. And there were, down here at the bottom, there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things that they encountered on their trip. And so essentially, I would read them the scenario and like where they were in the woods. And then they had to then respond. Like what do you want to do? And then based on what they wanted to do, they either had to flip coins or they had to pick a number, like it's different things. And then that or sometimes it was just literally them saying, I want to do X, Y, Z. And whatever their response was would then dictate what would happen next. And then, so we did several of those. And at one point, we also made beards. Let me go grab a beard real quick. Okay, yeah, so we had these beards that we wore, like this one on top is Carl's. But, so during the whole exercise, as we're like deciding and figuring out what's going to happen next in the story, we're all wearing these little beards. It was so funny. Hopefully I can post a picture up here. We worked together to try to get out. I was the narrator. They were making the decisions. At one point in the actual book, they're crossing a little stream and one of the dwarves falls in and puts him to sleep instantly, and he becomes a burden. They have to carry him. It's this whole thing. So in our little story, that opportunity also arose, and poor Peyton, who's the tiniest little thing ever, she's the one that fell in the water. It's like we were joking about having to carry her. And, it was just really funny. And at the end, we all ended up surviving. So that was great. They all made it out of the wood. So yeah, that was what we did for that week. That took quite a bit of preparing on my end, but it was so much fun and I love doing it. So, let's see. And then, let's see, then what did we do? Okay, so then we met the next meeting. I don't remember. I'm trying to look at the dates. I'm trying to make sense of it. Sorry. So the next part of the story was when the spiders take them and wrap them up and preparing to eat them, and Bilbo comes and saves them. And so what we did was we played a game of Would You Rather, and we had a ball of yarn. And so it would start, like I started it and I held on to the end of the yarn, and the question, like whatever question it was, like, would you rather live near the ocean or live near the mountains? And so like we would read the question, and then the person who has the yarn would say which one they would prefer. So like for me, I would prefer the mountains. And so then everyone who preferred the mountains would raise their hand. And then as you having the yarn, you would throw it to one of the people that was raising their hand. And then they would grab a little bit of the yarn, and then they would get a question. And then once again, they would pick their preference. The people who had the same preference would raise their hand, and then they would throw to one of those people. And we ended up making a huge web out of the yarn, which is kind of would tie into the story. But then we also just got to learn more about our preferences and like things of our character, and it was really interesting. It was really fun. And it was also the 4th of July, so then we did little poppers and stuff outside. So it was a fun night. Okay, and then we took a break for a little bit. Or did we? Yes, we took a break for a bit. Like I think we took like 10 days off from meeting. And then when they met, I wasn't able to come to this one, but we had just met Smaug in the mountain. And so they made little dragons, little Smaugs together. So that was that week. The following week, I'm keeping myself straight by looking at pictures, because also what I did was I took pictures from each week that I took them, and I printed them just at Walgreens, and then I have them just glued into these journals, so they have that too. Okay, the next week was when Bard kills Smaug. Spoiler, if you didn't know that, that's what happens. And he does that by firing an arrow into this open plate on Smaug. So what we did, clearly, was we built bow and arrows, and which they weren't true working bow and arrows. Like they worked, like they shoot arrows, but they're not like a true bow. Like the science is not the same, just FYI. But we made them out of popsicle sticks. They shoot awesome. The kids love them. So anyway, that's what we did. And then so that was kind of like my second idea to do. I really wanted to play this board game. It's like from 2001. I think it's the last time it was created, but it's called The Desolation of Smaug. I think that's what it's called. I'll try to put a picture. But essentially, it's a board game. Yeah, but
I'm going to defend you.
Okay, thank you. All right, go outside. Outside.
Oh, there's a dragon up there. Let's kill it.
There you go. They love the swords. Anyway, so I found this board game, and essentially you work to defeat Smaug. And the short story is that I found it on, it's like you can buy it, but it's like $60 or something, and I found it on Mercari for $12. And it's missing one little piece that doesn't even matter. So I was just like thrilled. And I didn't think it was going to come in time, but it did. So anyway, that's what I wanted to do. Didn't think it was going to work out, so we ended up doing the bow and arrow, and then it came in. So we have to do both of them. Best of both worlds. And the kids all love this game. but you work together kind of, but you're also doing it on your own. But you like answer like riddles, and so you have to try to defeat Smaug is basically the gist of it. And you have to answer riddles, and you can have special cards that you play. You try to steal the gems away from him, and it's fun. It took us about an hour to play, and it's really fun. Now, sorry y'all, they're slowly falling apart. And then afterwards we went to the park, which was really fun. That was just an added little bonus. And then we had the very end, sorry for the ding. We had our very last meeting together. And actually I need to add pictures in the boys' journal because I haven't done that yet. But we started that one off with answering the questions, all that good stuff. All of us had these shirts that we made, and it goes, we met together, did the questions, all that good stuff, and we all wore these shirts that we made. Sorry, I'm trying to find the quote, and I just realized that apparently in the movie, like with people, they changed the quote, which kind of just threw my mind for a loop. But so it's when he's on his deathbed, another spoiler. But it says, if more of us valued food, cheer, and song above hoarded gold, it would be a merrier world. I thought that was a really cool way just to think about our time, like our days. So anyway, I thought it was awesome. So that's what we did for our shirt. And then we watched took pictures, and then we watched the 1970s cartoon of The Hobbit, which is like very nostalgic for my husband and his brother. So they were like all about it. The little ones are all about it. And in fact, we actually went and checked it out at the library again yesterday because the boys were requesting that we watch it again. So that's how much it's affected our family. And then all the kids got these little, you did it things in their journals. And that was our Hobbit summer. So, let me see if I could briefly share with you my process of how I did this. Because I'm probably going to have more people hopping in here. Little people. Because it's getting hot outside. Essentially what I did in a nutshell is we decided on the story, which that might be one of the harder parts of it, is deciding what story, and maybe it won't be for you. But once you have the story picked out, then I looked at our calendar, and we decided when we would potentially be able to meet. So that gave me how many meetups we would have, and then divided the book into, initially divided up kind of equally based on that. And then I actually had read the book before this, not with the intention of doing this book study, so it wasn't really an in-depth reading. It was honestly just kind of like a quick read. So I took that information that I knew, and then I also looked online and just found some different like study guides and like just different questions type thing. And then I kind of tweaked the chapters, like our reading chapters. If there was something like, if the story needed to be kind of complete here, then I would kind of move chapter over, if that makes sense. So like, you know, at the end when we're defeating Smaug, like if it was over 2 chapters, I want to make sure those 2 chapters were together. So kind of like, so the story doesn't get chopped up, if that makes any sense. That didn't really happen based off my original plan, but something to keep in mind. And then like those questions that I had found, I just saved those. And then I picked some based on my audience. So like I said, I had 2 5-year-olds, a 6-year-old, and then I had the middle school kids, upper elementary middle school kids. So I kind of picked questions based on their attainment level and kind of what they'd be able to handle as a question. Like, you know, one week it could be, you know, trying to think. I have it right here. Actually, I could pull it up. I made it into a Google file so that all of us would be able to look at it if we needed to. Anyway, so for example, all right, here you go. So chapter 2, for the younger kids, the question was, based on what we read this chapter, what do you think trolls look like? And so they just literally drew a picture. And then if they wanted to write words, they could. And then for the older kids, the question was, is strength or intelligence more valuable so far in this book, and why? And so we had some really good discussions. My dog sounds like she's mauling a bear or something. But we had really great, just great discussions from those questions. So, what I chose to do was I picked those out for the kids to respond to every week, and then I just typed them up on. I use my Cricut software, but you could do this in Word as well, and just make a table. And then I bought sticker paper and printed on there, cut it up, put it in their journals. And then that's basically the harder part. Y'all come be with me while I finish this part. Yes.
But there's a bee outside.
Okay.
We think it's a bumblebee.
Oh, that's a good bee then. We don't want to mess with him. Can y'all do me a favor and pick up anything y'all played with outside and then come inside?
Well, he's doing that.
He shouldn't. If you leave him alone, you should be fine.
We think it's a bumblebee.
Bumblebees are good. We want bumblebees. Can y'all pick it?
Want regular bees?
Some bees are more damaging and they can hurt more, but bumblebees are good because they pollinate and
We don't want poison bees.
Yeah, no, we wouldn't want those. Can
Are
y'all?
they real?
I don't think so. Can y'all go put your bikes and just make sure everything's picked up outside, and I'll finish this up.
Everything picked up.
Okay, then go get your waters and come inside.
Make sure the bee didn't. You should check. You remember one time a bee went on my water bottle. Oh, I remember when you told me.
Okay, so once I got that preliminary stuff done, then what I chose to do was week to week, I figured out what activity we would do. There was 1 or 2 weeks when I was like, I know I want to do this. Like, I know I want to make swords from the very beginning. And so I went ahead and wrote that down. We were going to make swords. I didn't know how we were going to do it. I just knew that was the idea that I wanted to do.
No.
She's okay. She can come back. I'll let her in a minute. Y'all just go close the door.
But Mommy, I know it isn't a bumblebee. I know it's a wasp.
Okay.
I know it's a wasp.
All right, y'all go inside and take your shoes off and wash your hands and stuff, okay? Okay. So once I had the preliminary planning done of what chapters we were going to read and when we were going to read them, then from there, I figured out the activities. Sometimes I would do it beforehand. Sometimes I would do it... I would always do it beforehand, clearly. But sometimes I knew right from the bat that we were going to be making swords or whatever. And, like, I would plan that in theory. Like, didn't know how we were going to make swords yet, but we were going to do swords this time. So the activities every week, I was just inspired by what we read. And I kind of went with that. My goal from the very beginning was that I wanted to be hands-on. I wanted to try and incorporate like science and just like things that would like make them excited. And when they talked about it, like in the future, if they did that, I know for our boys, they talk about it all the time, how much they love doing the different things and they can't wait to do them again, all that good stuff. Like that was kind of my goal, was to create activities to where there would be a meaningful experience with it. And so, like I said at the beginning, like when we read, when we were reading about the invisible ink part, like one of the older kids was talking about how she wished that she knew how to do invisible ink. So I was like, okay, well, then we have to do that. So I just basically went to Pinterest and Google and was trying to find how could I easily do invisible ink. And that's what it took me a while to figure it out. And that's what I did. I did a lot of trial and error and I figured out what the best paper it was to do it and just all of that. So I put a lot of effort into it. That's also my very type A personality. Not when it comes to organization, as you can clearly see. But when I want to like plan things, that's in the planning mode. I'm very type A. Anyway, that's basically it. And then, like I said, we would just week to week, I'd figure out what activity we were going to do and get the supplies we needed. And then we would just do it. And then at the end of, once I had the pictures from each week, I would just make a little collage of them and then print them off at Walgreens. That was really it. So that's what we did. And you can choose to do it however you want to. I had these journals left over. That's why I incorporated them. But you could even do composition. I really felt like with us doing a book club with the kiddos, I really wanted to do it more like with writing. because these kind of serve as a little memory maker, keeper type thing too. But you can do it however you want to. That's just what we did. I'm not planning on sharing all my things that I made, because the way I do it right now is I just pull things off the internet and I'm using it for personal use. So yeah, I can point you in directions of things, but I don't feel it's not the right thing for me to be able to sell them or whatever, or to give you what I made, because I'm using somebody else's work. So, but yeah, that's it in a nutshell. If you have any questions, if this inspired you to do your own book club, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from y'all. And until next time, be blessed.